A whole new dimension of creation opportunities just became accessible to all.
Here we go!
This is the E1 UV printer from eufyMake. In this video, I'm putting the E1 to the test, showing what it can do, what it shouldn't do, how fast it is, the operating cost, the software, the hardware, everything. The good, the bad, and why I ended up buying another one. Let's jump right into what the E1 can do, because the range of surfaces it prints on honestly blew me away. And this isn't regular ink. We might as well call this resin. Full color, water, and smear proof, and able to build up layers like a 3D printer for eye-catching textures. Here's how it works. It jet sprays the resin down to the surface, then instantly cures it with the UV light, layer by layer until the design is fully built. So first, let's see it in action, then we'll dive into the details to help you decide if this is the right fit for you. Using their mobile app, I took this photo of my daughter and applied their built-in AI preset. It gives it a cute cartoon look and generates a 3D depth map from the flat image. You can adjust the height, smoothness, and even preview it before printing. I was curious, so I maxed out the effect at 5mm of height and sent it to the printer. Going full height like this took a while. It took 1 hour and 5 minutes and used 5.86 milliliters of resin, or about $2.46 worth. Now, it took this long because it has to build up all of those layers to get this effect. But you can still get this look without going that high, but I am glad I tested it to see what it's capable of. We're about to fly through a bunch of test projects, and I'll show you the print time, ink usage, and cost for each on the screen. Keep in mind the timer starts the moment you hit print, which includes about 1 minute of startup time. But if you're printing in batches on the standard bed, that minute doesn't get repeated, so the overall speed increases a lot. For the ink usage and cost, it's based on the current MSRP of 42 cents per milliliter. With that said, on Kickstarter, you can add ink at 40% off, which would be just 25 cents per milliliter. And I've heard they're already working on ways to lower the price and offer new ink delivery options. For this video though, we'll stick with the high-end cost of 42 cents per milliliter. But fingers crossed, maybe that price will drop in the future. But with companies like LogoJet, with their ink prices already at 45 cents per milliliter, eufyMake is already a more affordable option. Next, I did one of my son and set the height to just 0.6 millimeters. It gave that nice 3D texture, but only took 13 minutes. And used just 0.72 milliliters of resin. That's only about 30 cents to print. So even at this minimal setting like this, you still get that raised texture that sets it apart from any regular print. I took this adorable photo of my youngest daughter in a bear costume, and the cartoon filter matched her likeness perfectly. I set this one to the lowest height of just 0.3 millimeters, and it took 13 minutes. Though later I'll show you some ways to speed that up. It only took 0.43 milliliters of resin, which cost just 18 cents. I printed one of my wife at 1 millimeters of height. It took 25 minutes. It used 1.51 milliliters for just 63 cents. I also did one of myself with the same settings. It took 19 minutes and 41 seconds using 1.29 milliliters of resin, or about 54 cents. Now we've got a magnet for each of us in the family. Perfect for the fridge to hang up whatever important things we need to keep track of. Here's a large 16 by 12 inch print of Van Gogh on metal. I used the highest quality setting and printed a white base layer with the color on top. It took 1 hour and 12 minutes and 5.97 milliliters, or just $2.50 of ink. And the resolution is incredible. You can see all the fine textures, and the color and dynamic range really shines on this smooth metal surface. I wanted to put the 3D texturing to the test, so I went with my son's bearded dragon. Covered in tiny spikes, it seemed perfect for showing off all the detail. I used their software to generate this image of a bearded dragon standing upright to fill the wooden panel. I applied a pattern texture and raised it to just 0.5 millimeters. It used 11.52 milliliters of resin, or about $4.83. And this took 2 hours and 6 minutes to print. Each individual spike has a raised texture that you can not only just see, but you can literally feel the texture. My 10-year-old daughter has a turtle, so we sat down together and she designed this multi-layered print using their software on my laptop, with almost no help from me. That really shows how intuitive the software is, even in its beta phase. You can set different print settings for each element. She made the flowers semi-transparent by lowering the opacity, set the turtle to relief texture of 0.5 millimeters, and made the name at the top flat raised. I also love that you can preview everything in 3D before committing to print. This one used 9.94 milliliters of resin, or about $4.17, and it took 2 hours and 40 minutes to print. As for finishing, the E1 can do a gloss coat to add an extra shine, but I used my satin lacquer spray instead. Since the resin's fully cured, it went on flawlessly. No blushing or issues like you'd get with water-based inks. The result? A beautiful, vibrant finish that really makes the wood pop. I was on a roll with these wooden pet signs, so of course, Norman, my hairless cat, needed one too. This was a full 12 by 16 print, done flat with white and color layers. It took 2 hours and used 15.4 milliliters of resin. That's $6.46 worth. But 13 milliliters of that was just the white base coat. If I was making more of these, I'd definitely pre-paint the panels white to save and cut the ink cost down to just 98 cents. You might have noticed the image is a bit off-center. That was on me for skipping the camera calibration. I'll talk more about that during the accuracy testing, but I just trimmed the edge off with a circular saw and cleaned it up with a Sharpie. These kind of prints have real potential. Similar canvas versions at this size sell for around $120 online. The E1 also has a smart rotary. It measures your tumblers, automatically levels tapered cups, and even uses lasers to locate mug handles. It's pretty stinking amazing. To test a full wrap, I printed this STP oil treatment design on a skinny tumbler, top to bottom. Even though the cup was mostly white, I added a white base coat to get edge-to-edge coverage. Quick note, don't do this on drinkware meant for sipping. The ink isn't food safe. I used this one because it has a lid with a straw. With the white base coat, it took 40 minutes and used 4.46 milliliters of resin, about $1.87. Without the base coat, it probably would have finished in half the time and used half the ink. This PB Blaster print used 4.13 milliliters of resin, about $1.73, and took 39 minutes. I think I found my first real bug to report during my beta testing. I had selected to print with white, but the cartridge was already empty from a previous print where I accidentally used 18 milliliters of it. The issue? The printer didn't detect it was out of ink and tried to print anyway. That said, the eufyMake team has been fantastic. They've already redesigned the ink cartridges and sent out updated versions based on the feedback from the beta group. With how quickly they're improving things, I'm confident small issues like this won't affect the final production units. I found someone on Etsy selling this exact design for $36. So depending on how much you can get your drinkware for, this could be a pretty profitable item to sell. I could especially see these being a popular gift from wives to their husbands around Father's Day, Christmas, or maybe just on birthdays. You can print on mugs with handles, but there are two things I ran into. This lightweight metal mug had a surprisingly heavy handle, and that caused some issues. The weight threw off the rotary, making the mug slip during printing. That either shifted the design or stopped the rotation completely. So sometimes the entire image printed on a single line. To solve this problem, I just taped some counterweights inside the mug opposite to the handle to balance it out. Kind of like how your car tires are balanced. With that fix, the mug rotated perfectly with no slippage. This print used just 0.02 milliliters, less than a cent worth of ink, and only took 4 minutes. On a heavier ceramic mug, I had no slippage issues at all. So I doubt this will be a common problem. I also reported this issue to eufyMake through the beta group, and while I was editing this video, they messaged me they found a fix by increasing the strength of the downward tension arm. So it's great to see how quickly they're responding to feedback and fixing issues the beta testers might find. At the time of this recording, prints can't be placed too close to the handle, which is a bit of a drawback for me. It might be possible to improve this with future software updates if they can safely allow the print head to get a little closer. But I get why it's limited. Pushing it too far could risk the handle hitting the print head. I found two workarounds for this. First, if you shrink your design slightly, you can still place it in that ideal spot, 90 degrees to the handle. Here I printed mine using the rotary. I would have liked it a bit larger, but it still works. The second option is using a DTF transfer, which the E1 can also do. I'll go more into detail on that later. But with this method, you manually place the design so you can get it as close to the handle as you want. Now, let me show you what not to do with a UV printer. If you print directly onto extremely glossy surfaces, like this white mug, the design will look great at first, but at the moment you scratch it, it comes right off. That's because the resin has nothing to grip onto. There are surface treatments you can apply first to help it bond, and I believe eufyMake plans to offer their own version soon. You can also sand the surface for a stronger bond, but that kind of ruins that nice glossy finish. That said, I do want to show you how well the DTF transfer holds up even on a slick glossy surface. It seems the adhesive on the underside of the resin here is much stronger than just putting the resin directly on a glossy surface. So even though I scratch it, it still stays on. I picked this tumbler from a local craft store, not realizing it actually glows in the dark. When the UV light hit it during the printing, it supercharged the glow, and you could see it glowing even with the lights on in the workshop. The full wrap design only used 0.04 milliliters of resin, just 1 cent worth, and took 20 minutes to complete. Phone cases are something else that this machine can print on. You can even do raised 3D textures on these. I did this sculptural angel with this pattern texture at a conservative setting of just 0.7 millimeters of height, which used 1 milliliter at a cost of just 42 cents. It came out looking really neat, and the bond feels very durable. This print I'm going to do without the white underneath. As you can see, it's only using 0.08 milliliters. Nice, that only took 4 minutes. And I'd say the colors are pretty good. You can print directly onto canvas too. This 16 by 12 inch piece was my first attempt, and I'll call it user error. Somehow I bumped a setting in the software that turned my image completely white without realizing it. I sent it to the print and it used an absurd amount of ink, 29.45 milliliters, which cost $12.37. And it took 2 hours and 53 minutes. Luckily, I was able to save it by fixing the image and printing it again with just color. That time it only took 18 minutes and used 1.19 milliliters of resin, about 50 cents worth. And it came out vibrant and clean. I was hoping for more texture, but I think that issue came from the earlier mistake. My fault, not the printer's. Now for a comparison. I did another print of Starry Night, this time with just color, no white base. Same deal, 18 minutes and 50 cents of ink. When we compare the two, the one with the white ink base is definitely more vibrant, but honestly, both prints look great and are solid options depending on what you're going for. A lot of people are calling these stickers, but let's be clear, these are UV resin transfers. You print directly onto this sticky adhesive sheet, and once it's laminated, you can apply it to just about anything. It's perfect for items that don't fit in the machine or on the rotary. You can use the mini bed, the standard bed, and there's even talk of a future roller accessory that could handle unlimited lengths. The software already shows examples like skateboards and surfboards using this technique. These 4 decals used 1.79 milliliters of ink, about 75 cents, and took 27 minutes to print. Since then, I've already seen an update promising faster sticker speeds. After printing on a clear DTF sheet and run them through the eufyMake laminator, which applies the transfer film on top. Then you just cut out, peel the backing, and then press them onto your item. And remove that top film. It leaves behind only the cured resin. No weeding needed, unlike Cricut style designs. Now, here's what these prints aren't meant for. Clothing. The resin has a little flexibility, but it's not made for fabric. I tested it on my hoodie just to see, and while it did transfer, the resin cracked in multiple spots. I printed my logo, 2.61 milliliters of resin, or $1.09. It took 1 hour and 39 minutes. I used the large UV DTF paperback sheet, which I actually prefer since it runs through the laminator on its own. Then I heat pressed it onto the hoodie, but the transfer sheet fused to the fabric, and peeling it took so much force that most of the design either cracked or didn't stick. Definitely not the right use. But now we've got a clear example of why UV prints and clothing don't mix. I wanted to combine the power of laser cutting with UV printing, and the clear acrylic seemed like the perfect first test. I designed a custom license plate, used a Jurassic Park theme, and added my kid's school carpool number to it. For the first one, I printed it mirrored using the setting that lays down color first, then white on top. It used 1.16 milliliters of resin, about 48 cents, and it took 17 minutes. At first glance, it doesn't look like much, but once I peel off the protective paper, you can see the color through the acrylic, and it gives it a really nice high gloss finish.
That is awesome. So again, it's printed on the back, and we're viewing the image from the front.
I made a second one for my truck, this time printing white first, then color directly on the front. It used 3.16 milliliters of resin, about $1.32, and it took 43 minutes. You don't get that high gloss, glass-like look since you're not viewing it through the acrylic, but the ink still has a certain clear satin finish right on the surface. These will also be a great test of the durability, since they'll be out in the elements and getting direct sunlight. I'll keep everyone updated on how they hold up over time. I grabbed these slate coasters and printed a megalodon skeleton on the side to create a cool fossil-like texture. This used 1.5 milliliters of resin, which was just 63 cents, and it took 32 minutes. I had this large slate slab and thought a raptor skeleton would look awesome on it. It used 11.73 milliliters of ink, about $4.92, and it took 2 hours and 49 minutes to complete.
So you can feel each individual bone, which I think gives it a really cool look to it. I picked up this picture frame for about $10, and my idea with this is let's print on the back side of the glass.
Continuing my family pet series, we have a dog named Winston, so I printed this image of him as Winston Churchill. I printed this one without a white layer, so it finished in just 13 minutes, and used only 1.17 milliliters of ink, about 49 cents. Since there's no white, the image is semi-transparent, and a little hard to see, until you place it against a white paper, and then you can see the whole image, and it pops and comes to life.
That looks amazing.
Here's another lesson on what not to do. I printed directly on the back of this glass. It looked great at first, But about an hour later, the ink started peeling off all on its own. Smooth surfaces like this really need proper pre-treatment. I scraped off the failed print with a razor blade, then tried again. After lightly sanding with 600 grit, the second print held much better, but some areas still pulled back. I wanted to point out, even though we sanded this pane of glass, I am still seeing some separation, and some of it may have come from when it was falling over on this spinny thing, trying to get some good shots. But as you can see, right here we have some separation of the ink, right up there, a little bit around his eye, on his forehead. Overall, I think it's a technique that could work, but I believe you want to be very thorough with your sanding. So if you're going to try this, sand thoroughly. Or better yet, wait for the pre-treatment solution that eufyMake plans to offer. Inside the software, there are special print settings designed for light boxes. Right here will be where all the color is, and then it gets covered with white. And then you get this like pencil drawing on the top. So when the light's off, all we will see is that pencil drawing. And then when it gets turned on, we get to see all the colors come through. It used 2.71 milliliters of resin and took 55 minutes to complete. When you place it into the light box, it looks like a simple pencil sketch until you turn on the light and the full color image reveals itself from behind. I put this fabric-covered sketchbook into the printer and printed a teal unicorn. It used 1.14 milliliters of resin, about 47 cents, and took 35 minutes. If you look at the top right, you'll see where the sketchbook opened slightly and it got a bit of ink on it. Next time, I'll use some painter's tape to keep it closed during the printing process. But either way, my daughter loves her new sketchbook. I sanded the smear and decided to try printing directly onto it. Normally, printing on reflective surfaces like this is discouraged because the UV light can bounce back into the printhead, potentially curing the ink prematurely and causing clogs. However, I learned that the eufyMake E1 has its UV lamp angled specifically to minimize direct reflections, so theoretically it should handle this safely. This print took just 4 minutes and used only 0.01 milliliters of resin, less than half a cent of ink. I really like how the design reflects off the mirror, creating a double image effect that's visually striking.
Pretty cool. I like how it floats like that.
I run an online business where I laser engrave QR codes onto wood, but I've always wanted to add color or print them directly on acrylic. So I took one of my QR code designs and printed it on the back side of this acrylic. And even at this tiny size, every code scanned perfectly. I'm looking forward to adding this to my online store and offering it to my customers. At this point, my kids have been watching all these projects come out of this machine, and they were very curious. Naturally, they all wanted to give it a try.
What do you want to make?
Unicorn.
My 4-year-old had a blast helping me feed prompts into the built-in AI to generate a teal unicorn with pink and blue hair.
I hope you get a unicorn.
I hope we do too.
That's river.
That's it?
Yeah.
We used the circle crop tool and placed the image on the lid of a tiny treasure chest she picked up at a craft store. Since the camera snapshot feature currently only supports objects up to 60 millimeters tall, we just removed the lid and printed on that directly instead. Then when it was done, we screwed it back on. She's super proud of her work and already planning her next project. My 10-year-old daughter wanted to decorate her large tumbler, but since it doesn't fit on the rotary, I showed her how to use a DTF transfer. She measured her cup, used the built-in AI to generate and layer her design, placed a strip of transfer film on the bed, took a snapshot, and hit print. 18 minutes later, we ran it through the laminator, lined it up, and she pressed it onto her tumbler. I think it turned out great, and so does she.
Good job. First creation on the UV printer.
Then it was my 9-year-old son's turn. He had a blast bringing all of his ideas to life using the AI.
What are you going to take?
Diamond Godzilla.
Well, that's a good idea.
Can you see what it's Whoa.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
And after a few tries, he settled on a design he liked and hit the print button. Just 9 minutes later, his design was done, with a gloss coating on top for a really nice shine. After seeing what the eufyMake could do, my kids turned into little entrepreneurs overnight. The next day, they were taking orders at school, showing off their projects, and collecting AI prompts from their friends. I set up an account for them, and they started creating their own designs. My son made magnets.
I love them.
Yeah, they come out good?
And my daughter focused on DTF transfers. As a dad, it's awesome to see them to get excited about something I've been doing for over a decade. And thanks to how easily this machine is to use, I don't have to worry about them getting discouraged by complicated tools or software. Alright, I told you we would dive into all the nitty-gritty details, so if you're still here, let's go. One thing I really appreciate about eufyMake is how closely they're working with beta testers. I was lucky to join a Discord group with over 100 users testing the machine out, finding bugs, suggesting features, and working directly with the team at eufyMake. It's been awesome seeing all of the updates roll out so quickly based on the real-time feedback. In fact, 3 upcoming features came directly from this beta testing community. First, a standalone air purifier attachment to safely vent out fumes for anyone who's wanting something a little more effective than the charcoal air filter. Second, a continuous high-capacity ink system for more serious users, which should definitely cut ink cost even more. And third, an offline mode so you can run the printer without the internet. Perfect for mobile or outdoor setups. And the ideas just keep flowing in this group. Seeing all of this firsthand makes me feel confident saying that the machines and software shipping out soon are going to be rock solid and definitely something you won't regret getting into. Since this printer is developing so fast, I've added a fact check section in the video description. If anything changes or updates come out that contradict what I say here in this video, I'll post them there, so be sure to check that out before you leave. The unboxing experience is smooth and simple. No complicated setup. Just slide in the air filter, insert the ink cartridges, remove a few rubber covers, and push in the automatic cleaning cartridge. And this cleaning system is a huge deal. In the past, I avoided UV printers because if you didn't maintain them consistently, you'd risk clogging the pricey print head with hardened resin. But eufyMake solved that with an automated system that keeps everything clean as long as it's plugged in. And if you're not using it for a while, you can ask it to purge the lines of ink, then power down and store it until you're ready to use it again. I was curious how accurate the camera on my machine was in relation to where it actually prints. After running the automatic camera calibration, the mini bed was spot on.
I would say camera accuracy is really good. I have had some issues in the past, but I think that's maybe from a lack of calibration. So I think as long as you keep your machine calibrated, you'll be really accurate with your prints.
At first, I did not realize there was a separate calibration for the standard bed, but there was.
So this was before the calibration, which now considering that, it's not that far off.
Once I completed that calibration, it was only off by about 1 millimeter.
So this was before the calibration. Here's after, slightly to the left.
Even at the farthest corners.
Down here, again, slightly to the left, but it's about 1 millimeter to the left. Pretty dang good. Looks good. I'm impressed.
And I'm confident even this could be improved in the software. If they just allow for a manual offset, the users can calibrate that to a T for really precise printing. Let me quickly highlight the features of this machine that really make it stand out. Modular attachments. The E1 is designed to grow with you. It has swappable attachments like the mini bed, the standard bed, and the smart rotary. And there are future add-ons planned like an unlimited length roller accessory. And don't forget the VOC air purifier, making it one of the most expandable UV printers in its class. Laser sensors. These aren't just for show. The built-in lasers assist with auto leveling, object alignment, measuring the height, and even rotary calibration, making setup quick and precise. Print head resolution. The E1 uses a high-precision print head capable of 1,440 dots per inch, which delivers an incredible detail and smooth gradients, especially noticeable in photorealistic or 3D textured prints. Phone and watch notifications. You'll get real-time alerts on your phone or even on your smartwatch when a print is done, ink is low, or if your attention is needed. No more babysitting the machine. I wanted to test out if I would be able to run the machine with my portable power station. And yes, even with this small unit here, it ran perfectly. No issues at all. Okay, it is in true standby mode at this time, and it's not even registering on here, so it's gotta be below 1 watt. In standby, it is extremely efficient. It is on. We do have the green light here, but I am seeing no usage at all. Yeah, 25 watts at idle. Okay, the printer is running. It's jumping from 30 to 65. Probably has to do with each pass of the UV light or whether it's spraying. So I would say 50% of the time you'll be at 60 and 50% of the time you'll be at 30. So we probably need to average that wattage out, I would bet. And it was estimating about 4 to 6 hours of usage time. And if I plugged up the solar panels on a sunny day, I could run it continuously. In Middle Georgia, the average electricity rate would be around 13 cents per kilowatt hour. That's roughly 33 cents per month to run. Even if the printer ran continuously at 45 watts for an entire month, it would use just 32.4 kilowatt hours, costing about $4.21. So yeah, it's incredibly efficient, even for long print sessions. One thing I was curious about was what would happen if the machine got unplugged, or if the power went out. Would it damage anything? Would it automatically purge the ink lines and waste some resin?
Shit, you got unplugged.
Thankfully, I tested it, and the answer is no. After plugging it back in, it took about 2 minutes to boot up, then it was right back to ready to print. No automatic purging, no unnecessary cleaning cycle, and no wasted ink. That gives me a lot of confidence if I ever need to shut it down or move it between locations. Let's talk about the smell, because with UV printers, that's usually a concern. To me, it just kind of smells like an ink pen. I've been running it in my garage workshop with the doors open and the fans on. And according to my VOC monitor, the levels stayed relatively low the entire time and never reached the alarm state like you would see if you were spray painting. Of course, ventilation is always important, and if you're planning to run this indoors, I definitely recommend some airflow or waiting for their upcoming standalone air purifier accessory, which is designed to handle VOCs more directly. After using the E1 extensively, it became clear to me this isn't just a fun tool, it's a serious business asset. The ability to offer high-quality, full-colored textured prints on a wide variety of surfaces has opened up an entirely new stream of products I can create and sell. I decided to buy a second unit because I believe in the value this brings to my customers. Whether it's personalized gifts, promotional items, or high-end custom decor, this machine allows me to deliver unique professional results that stand out and that people are willing to pay for. In the right hands, it's not just a printer. It can be a profit generator. I was able to grab mine during the Kickstarter at a huge discount, and I'll drop a link below with the best current deals and promo codes, so you can get in on it too. That deal should last until June 28th, or at least I hope it does. With over $16.9 million already raised on Kickstarter in just a few days, this might just be one of the most successful product launches ever. And honestly, after using it, I can see why. So that's why the eufyMake E1 UV printer is an incredibly powerful tool that's already made a huge impact on my business, my creativity, and even my kids' interest in making things. I'm Chad from Chad's Custom Creations, reminding you all to be encouraged, stay inspired, and keep on creating.